What's up, everyone? It's your host, Jonah. Welcome back to the Blue Collar Enlightenment Show. And if you're new, thanks for tuning in. Smash that follow button so you don't miss any new content.
Hey, everybody. It's your co-host, T. Today we have Heather Ashbury, an author of More Than Human. She is also a photographer and a mother of 3.
Heather's books tell an amazing story with twists and turns around every corner. Just when you think you know the story, bam, she throws you in the dryer and puts you on tumble. Hey, Heather, thanks for joining the podcast. I appreciate you coming on. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live on a farm in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, and right next to the river. And if it wasn't so dry right now, it'd be really nice, but we haven't had any rain, so there's been some fires, and that's kind of stressful. But I'm a farmer, and I have a lot of animals, and I do a little bit of herbalism and some photography and some writing.
So what's herbalism? Can you tell me a little bit about what that is?
The study and application of medicinal herbs. I tend to specify on the ones that grow in my region. The ones that are more accessible are the ones that I prefer to learn about.
Okay, I get that. I was just curious.
So what kind of herbs do you find in your region?
Well, the most popular herbs that I like to work with myself are the elderberry tree that grows around. The berries and the flowers are very potent antiviral medicine. I also like to work with mullein, which the leaf can be used for respiratory issues and the flower can be used for ear infections. I work a lot with wild lettuce, which is really good for pain and for sleep. And I work with one of my favorite plants is called Corydalis that is tremendous in helping with anxiety.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know. I mean, like, I knew that you could mess around with herbs like that, but I just never dabbled into it, I guess.
So being so busy with your farm and your kids and all that, how do you find time to write your books?
I coordinate with my husband. On his days off, I tell him that I'm going to lock myself in my room all day long, leave me alone, keep the kids away from me, bring me snacks and water. and I write. So I don't get to really every day. It's mostly when I have the allotted time to do so.
Well, it's nice to have a support system. At least he helps you out with that.
If it wasn't for my husband, I wouldn't have written a book. He had a great deal to do with it to help me be able to do it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I feel that because Tabby has been my support ever since I've started.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be near as far if she didn't keep pushing me as well.
I try. So without giving any of the book away, can you tell us what it's about?
Well, More Than Human, contrary to some people's belief, takes place in New Mexico, not Arizona. My main character is from Arizona, and she is brought back to New Mexico through the mysterious death of a friend. And she attends the funeral in New Mexico, and she is approached by some of her mutual friends and is told that demons and vampires and werewolves and all the supernatural mythological creatures are real, and that she is one of them, and that she has to unlock a dormant gene in order to be able to access her ability as a werewolf. And they're being hunted by an ancient order, an ancient religious order called the Order of Purity, who try to hunt down everything that isn't human, basically, and cleanse the world of the non-human filth. And it's about her struggling with trying to become what she's told she is and trying to kind of fit in a sense, and face her fears and find her inner strength.
Yeah, like find her true self.
Yeah.
So, what was the most enjoyable thing about writing this book?
Seeing my vision come to life and being able to hold a physical copy of a book that I wrote, and that, a really good friend of mine designed the cover. The photo on the back is a picture that I took. And the whole project was a women only project pretty much. It's something that I was very proud of, and I still can't believe it's still surreal to me to hold my book in my hands and hear other people read it and their thoughts about it, and more so that people actually like it.
It is really good. We did listen.
Yeah, we when we took our trip down to Austin on our way back up, we listened to it the whole way back.
Yeah.
And every time when I was like, man, I'm starting to get this story, you would throw something in there at like the perfect time. I don't know how you did it, but it was the way you lay it out is perfect to keep the reader's attention. It was awesome.
Yes. Is writing something you've always been interested in, or is it?
I never quite imagined myself actually becoming an author. I wrote a lot of poetry when I was younger, and the first story that I ever tried to write, I think I was 11 or 12, and it was about a girl in high school who has a crush on a guy, and he turns out to be a vampire, and her best friend was a werewolf. And then Twilight came out, and I was like, well, shit.
Somebody got you.
Yeah, she beat you to the punch.
So, yeah. And, I was only 11 or 12, so, my book, I'm pretty sure it would have stuck pretty bad at that age. But I was let down from that kind of. And I just stuck to my poetry after that, and kind of some short, fun stories here and there, nothing real serious. And I didn't actually start writing this book out until several years after the idea hit me, and I just could not stop thinking about it, and I had to write it out. But, starting out, I was an avid reader of Twilight when it came out. Stephanie Meyer is actually from the next town over from where I'm originally from. And I met her at a book signing at a small little bookstore before she became all big and famous and stuff. And I had a signed copy of Twilight, and I did sell it on eBay.
Hey, when you need the cash, it's got to go.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
I took myself out to a nice dinner after I got that payment.
I bet.
I bet you did. We've gotten the opportunity of talk a little bit before we got to record, and you were telling us. Well, you were telling me. I think you left by this time, but you were telling me there's a series. This is going to be a series, correct? You have a second book coming out, and then you were maybe
possibly
thinking about
more.
Yeah.
Yes. In total, I don't know how many books it will be, but I do have the second one in editing and ready to release on August 11th. And then I have a novella that's going to fit between books 2 and 3 that's pirate themed. And I'm going to publish that shortly after. I'm almost done writing it. I'm about halfway through. But then I'm going to take a break for a little while, but I'm still building up on the book 3 and book 4. And that's as far as I've gotten so far, but I haven't seen an end to the series yet. So I'm pretty sure it's going to go beyond book 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a good series.
That's a lot of writing. That's a good deal, though, that you have that many books in mind. At least you have it all planned out.
And a couple spin-offs. One from the Order of Purity's point of view, like a journal of one of the hunters from childhood to demise. And then another, More Than Human spin-off that focuses on a totally unrelated character who doesn't know this group. And that one's mermaid based. So I have a couple different ideas floating around.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get too deep into them. Don't want to ruin it for you readers. So in your story, the characters that you write about, are they based off of anything in your life, or are they just fictional community?
Most of my characters have a root base in somebody that I have either become friends with or just met briefly in my life. But then, I exaggerate on the character or exaggerate on characteristics or personality traits or what have you. So they're not exactly these people that I know. Some of my close friends who have read my book have been able to pinpoint which character is based off of who. Most of the time they're wrong, though, so that makes me happy. It's not that obvious. So you write best what you know. And since I know these people and I've interacted with them and I have a intimate knowledge of them, I can use that as a base to build off of when creating a variety of characters. So they're not all the same.
Yeah, and that's nice that you can just take certain characteristics and make it so much more than the imagination that it takes to come up with all of the amazing things that you had going on in your book. Because never in a million years would I have just thought of that kind of thing. Like, I couldn't take a person and make them like a fantasy or like a fictional character like that. You know what I mean?
I could.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
Oh, I could. I could for sure. But I'm not going to write about it because they'd probably get pissed at me. Anyway, when you decided that you were going to publish your book, what was some of the first steps you took?
I joined authors groups and writers groups on Facebook and built a really firm network with other writers and authors who were kind enough to kind of hold my hand through the whole process and explain to me what I needed to do and provided me with references for, a formatter or editor or what have you. So if it wasn't for the kindness of those people, my editor, K.R. Likeful, mostly, I don't think I would have been able to publish or even had the bravery to do it.
Was it a difficult process at all?
Oh yeah. Being an independent author is a pain in the ass, at least for me, because marketing is my biggest struggle. I hate marketing. I hate trying to convince people to buy my book. I hate trying to, praise my own work. Part of me just feels sour when I do that. I just don't feel comfortable doing it. So I need to hire somebody else who can go, boast about my book and go convince people to go read it, because that's definitely a struggle for me. And when it comes to like Amazon advertisements or anything like that, they give you a list of keywords to use in your advertisements, and it's just so overwhelming. And I feel like I'm drowning, and I don't know what to do. So it's just kind of, my book isn't doing that great, but it's doing better than I thought it would, for sure.
Yeah, and committing yourself like to social media 24/7 is kind of what you have to do to promote yourself. And that just, nobody has time for that, especially a mother of three. Like, no. Mommy time comes first and then everything follows. Though at least that is how it is for me. So yeah, social media isn't even top of my mind, and you literally have to be on there all day to promote yourself.
Oh, yeah. I know. I do all the marketing. Yeah, I do a lot of the marketing on the podcast. So if you ever see a post or anything like that, except on Facebook, I try to stay off Facebook. I'll get kicked off. She's the one that takes care of Facebook.
I try to.
So when you see the Twitter posts and the Instagram posts, that's me. And then Facebook, that's T.
Yeah, I have to try to stop myself from using like little heart emojis because I have to remember that there's a male on our podcast, and it's going to be a little weird if I'm like putting hearts and like, oh, I love this. And so I have to really take myself back.
Oh, go for it. Come on.
Yeah, I don't
hearts,
care.
right?
If people are like, are you the one putting the heart emojis out? I'll be like, hell yeah, I am. Yes, I am. What you going to say about it?
Right. I mean, yeah, but
Right.
I don't know.
I mean,
Have fun with it.
when you go on Instagram and you like somebody's video or picture, don't you press the little heart button? I mean, what's the difference?
I mean, you're right.
Yeah, on Instagram, you
I ain't
can't
ashamed.
escape it on Instagram.
I ain't ashamed.
It's all about the love.
Yeah, I ain't ashamed in my game.
But I get like the whole being your own publicist. Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, being your own marketing person.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing about.
Have you
being an
thought
indie
about
thing at all.
hiring? Oh, we're all talking at the same time. Sorry. Have you thought about hiring somebody for that?
If I can get a little bit more income in the future after, book 2 releases and the second audiobook, that should help bring in a little bit more money for me to be able to look for hiring someone to do all that crap for me.
Yeah.
But right now, at the moment, no. In the future, yes.
But I guess, it has to be more gratifying knowing that you pretty much did it all on your own. Like, it's got to
It
feel
is.
so much better knowing, like, I didn't really need somebody to do it for me. I could do it for myself.
It is just as satisfying as it is exhausting.
Oh, I imagine it is.
Oh yeah. What was one of the biggest hurdles you had to get over to get your book into readers' hands?
Not violating any rules on Facebook against self-promotion. That's really the biggest one.
Are there rules?
Yeah, a lot of reader groups and writers groups and stuff tell you that, you're not allowed to promote your book. And then there's other groups that are for promotion, but it's just full of self-promotion, no reader engagement or anything, no likes, no nothing. So it's really hard to kind of navigate the seas of Facebook without violating any rules or dropping your link to an empty audience and wasting your time. So yeah, I think that's been the hardest, or getting reviews, because only about 10 to 15% of readers leave reviews, and reviews for an independent author are so inherently important, because when somebody goes to check out a book, especially from an independent author, most people go and read the reviews, and that will determine whether or not they'll buy the book. So, and I think a lot of readers don't leave reviews because they feel pressured to leave basically a book report. And it doesn't have to be long. You can just say, I really like this book, 4 stars, 5 stars, whatever. And you're done. And that's good enough. Because if there's 50 people saying, I really like this book, and only one person saying this book was crap, somebody's more likely to buy the book. And yeah, just getting reviews is almost like pulling teeth. It's so hard. I have to beg and plead and hope that people will leave a review when they're done, especially if they like the book.
Oh, we'll get on there and review it, because I don't really think about it whenever I'm reading something or whenever I buy something. I don't really think about to review it, or, yeah, I look at the reviews, but I don't really take them to heart, especially on like Amazon and stuff, because, the bought ones, like, they have their own little system. But I don't think about reviewing things, but we'll definitely get on there and review yours, because we did read it, or we listened to it. So
Yeah, we did listen to it.
Sorry if I pressured you.
Oh, absolutely not. We really wanted to have more of an understanding with our authors. So we try to at least read the first couple chapters of all of our authors that come on, and we like to support them. So whatever we can do to help you is what we want.
Yeah, you're doing your own thing, and you have an interesting story about how you're going about it and how busy you are. And that's what this show is about, is other blue-collar people doing their thing, trying to make their own way through life. And you're doing that, and you're doing an awesome job. I see you on Facebook, and, you've been on Twitter lately, and I see you hitting it off.
You're trying. That's all that matters. That's all we can do, right? We can only do so much.
Yeah, marketing is a big beast. So off of that marketing thing, you do a lot of reading, correct?
When I get the chance to, yeah, I try to.
Who's your favorite author?
One of my favorite authors and one of my main inspirations for getting into werewolf writing was Annette Curtis Claus. And shortly after I published, I reached out to her on Facebook, and I told her that I just wrote this book, that she was a huge inspiration, and I asked if it would be okay if I sent her a copy of my book. She gladly accepted. It took her about a year to get around to it, to read it, but she did eventually read it, and she got back to me, and she said that she really enjoyed the book, and especially the fight scene towards the end. And hearing that praise from one of my favorite authors and my inspiration, I lost my shit. I was crying and I was giggling, and it was ridiculous for like an hour.
Oh, we all need a good fangirl moment. It's just amazing though. Like, you don't ever think that somebody that you look up to like that would get back to you, and that's awesome that she did.
Yeah, you're right. I had my
yeah.
fan moment last night. So we won't have to get into it. Just know that if they listen, they already know that I fanboyed over them.
Fangirl.
I fanboyed. I told them, at least I told them, I said, look, man, I'm kind of nervous talking to you guys. But in the end, they were really awesome people. So I can't wait to talk to them too.
Yeah. But it's just funny.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier to us that you are a witch, and does that have anything to do with your herbalism? Does that tie into herbalism?
It does a little bit. I practice both kind of kitchen witchery and garden witchery. I feel that herbs are my favorite item in witchcraft to use and to play around with, and most of it has to do with intent, especially in the kitchen, when using certain herbs that represent certain things like strength or good health or anything like that. It also has to do with your intent that you're feeling while you're cooking the dish. If you have like malicious feelings, then it could bring on bad things. But if you focus on healing and the positivity and stuff while you're cooking, that energy, that I believe transfers into the food and therefore the people that you are feeding, and brings healing and promotes happiness and all that other good stuff.
Okay, so is being a witch, is that like a religion, or like is it a religion or a culture?
Well, it's a vast culture that expands worldwide. Paganism can be observed in everywhere from Europe to the Middle East to Africa to the United States. It's just acknowledgement of more than one deity, really. But witchcraft specifically, you incorporate like spells, and you don't sacrifice babies or kill goats or any of that crap. And I certainly don't worship Satan, because that's a Christian thing, not a pagan thing. But it's more of a spiritual practice, having a harmony and a balance, and understanding and connection with the world around you, rather than being told it has to be this way or this will happen. Witchcraft is more free, and it's really comes down to what kind of a person you are and what kind of things you want to do. It's not just, a cookie cutter thing applied to everybody who follows. It's all just as different as the people of the world.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I've never like looked into it. I've heard of what is it called? Wiccan? Is that?
Yeah.
Is that is that like a form of it?
It's like a sect of witchcraft.
Yeah. I knew
like you have in the Christian religion, you have Catholics and Lutherans and Baptists and Protestants, and the list goes on and on and on. Well, it's the same in witchcraft. And Wicca is a section that has a certain kind of core belief system and a way that they do things, still open to interpretation and still open to individuality, but that's not something that I follow. That's a whole nother wormhole about history and who created Wicca and how and why. And it's actually really interesting if you delve into it and look up who created Wicca. It's kind of interesting. But witchcraft actually predates Wicca. Wicca is a fairly newer practice in witchcraft.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I've only heard of that. I mean, don't practice.
It's very popular.
Like that, so I've never actually looked into it or anything. I've heard of it, but not. I wouldn't know anything about it if you asked. You know what I mean? Like if you ask me a question, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I don't know.
How many different types of witchcraft are there?
I couldn't even tell you because it spans, like I said, it spans worldwide. I'm sure there's all kinds that I don't even know about. I'm more familiar with the European followings, the Norse mythologies and the Roman and the Greek, and even some of the Irish or Gaelic mythologies. But they span all over the place, and there's all kinds of different combinations, and you can pick and choose, and so the list of different types of witchcrafts is kind of endless in a way.
Okay.
You even have Christian witches who believe that witchcraft was practiced in the Bible using anointed oils and herbs and stuff like that. And if you think about it, communion is actually a ritual spoken by your elders, and everybody does the same thing at the same time, and it's all symbolic. That's a whole ritual. So some Christians take that and incorporate witchcraft into their belief, which I find really interesting.
Yeah,
that's so interesting.
Because I grew up Catholic, and there, looking back, there is some interesting things that you see in churches that you question. How does that symbolize God? That's fun. You just enlightened me.
You just opened his eyes.
Opened my mind to a whole can of worms. I'm going to have to get into that.
He's going to be like dabbling later. He's going to be like, ooh.
Yeah, because I heard of, at the Vatican, there are pagan statues, right? And if you look at what they call the crucifix of Jesus, it does not look anything like what it's depicted of. Just go check it out.
Well, even pentagrams have been used by the church throughout history. And then all of a sudden, I don't know how or why in history, but they were then associated with paganism. And then you no longer see them in the churches. But in the really, really old churches, a lot of the stained glass design have pentagrams in them.
Look at the ceilings. A lot of the architecture inside of a Catholic church and any kind of building that the Catholic Church owns. The architecture itself, you just got to kind of look into it, but it's there.
Yeah.
I've never looked that deep, though. I wasn't Catholic or anything growing up. So, I mean,
the problem with today's religion is it's been touched so many times, we don't actually know what happened.
You're right. But anyhow, so did your being a witch inspire some of the people in your book?
Yeah, my character Lilith is kind of based off of kind of how my house is. I have occult decorations all over the place and tons of books and stuff like that. But she specializes in divination, which is basically fortune telling. And she uses tarot cards. But for me, tarot cards are just pretty and nice to look at, and they don't really tell me anything. So I'm really terrible with tarot, though I do like to collect them.
See, I was thinking,
Lilith is loosely based off of my own witchcraft and stuff.
See, that's what I was getting at, because I remember her. I remember her in your book, so I figured I would ask that.
After this series of your books, do you kind of find yourself maybe dabbling into different genres? Are you going to keep going, maybe start a new series? What's your thoughts on that?
I actually had an idea for a medieval high fantasy setting story. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be a standalone or a small series or something yet, but it's slowly, bit by bit, coming to me, and I'm writing down my notes and everything I see or think of. And then I have another series that I was thinking of doing geared more towards younger teens. That's I don't know if I want to talk about it yet because I'm afraid of somebody stealing my idea.
Oh, no,
You don't spill no beans you ain't ready for.
Don't you spill no beans on my show. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
You can't.
Even the title, because I think it's clever. But
you keep it to yourself. We're supporting, we're rooting. You keep it to yourself.
Yeah, for sure. We just want to know if you're going to dabble into other books and stuff like that.
Yeah, probably, most likely.
So what has been the most enlightening moment of your life so far?
That is a deep one. Actually, coming up next month will be my 8-year surviviversary, is what I call it. I actually attempted suicide 8 years ago with a very serious overdose on some medication. And for whatever reason, it didn't work for me. It pretty much did nothing. After all and I didn't jump into this not knowing what the medication was or what it would do. I researched it and I looked it up and I looked up what a lethal dose would be and what a lethal dose would do. And I was very set on just ending things. And it didn't work. And I woke up in the hospital and my first thought was, I failed again. God damn it, And then after having a talk with the male nurse who was working in my wing, who was very, very kind, he sat me down and he told me like he has witnessed somebody else overdose on the same medication and they died on the way to the hospital. And he doesn't understand how it didn't work or why it didn't work, but that I should really be grateful because of how serious of what I did was. And that really sat with me. And my life took a complete, 180 after that. And very shortly after, I found my husband, and 3 months later we got married, and my life has been tremendously different and so much better. And so I guess my point of enlightenment was that it's not fucking worth it. Like all that shit leading up to me wanting to kill myself, looking back, it's so stupid. It was so petty and it wasn't worth it. And I wouldn't have had the opportunity to publish a book or have my family or my farm or any of that shit if I had succeeded, So whatever your issue is, however dismal it seems, no matter how dark it gets, it can always get better.
We know that firsthand.
Yeah.
Oh,
I struggle bad with depression and suicidal thoughts. So I know how hard it is to actually come through something like that. I've never been to that point, thankfully, because I've always had a system, but I have struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts, and it's been rough. So I get it.
It is rough.
Yeah,
and you keep going.
We're glad that that it didn't take effect, and that you were able to come and talk to us and publish your books and doing what you're doing now, seeing your children grow. You're going to see your grandchildren. I foresee this book taking off and your series being
a hit.
A hit.
It's going to be good. We're
That would be
supporting
cool.
anyway.
Well, it got pretty deep in this episode, but thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We've enjoyed having you. And when you come out with that next book, make sure to let us know and we'll get a hold of it and we'll have you back on just to talk about it.
Yeah.
Continue our dig into Heather Ashbury's life.
Yeah. We're going to get to know you, girl. Be ready.
I look forward to it.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. You can find us on Facebook, The Blue Collar Enlightenment Show, and at The BCE Show on Twitter. Give us a follow and remember to message us what you think about the podcast. It goes a long way for us. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Today's shout out goes to